Hey, let's talk about the digestive system. The goals of this video, we are going to discuss how animals work to carry out the 5 characteristics of life. When you're finished with this video, you will be able to say that you know the function of the digestive system and you know the structures in the digestive system and their functions. So here we have a diagram of the digestive system, and all the digestive system is a group of organs that work together to change food into substances that can be used by the body. So we eat food, but that's not in any form that our bodies can use, so the digestive system takes it and turns it into forms that all of the cells in our body can use. So digestion is the process of breaking down food into a form that can pass into the bloodstream. So remember, the blood is in charge of carrying nutrients and other things around the body, and digestion is what takes the food and breaks it down into something that can pass into the blood. There are 2 types of digestion. There's mechanical digestion. Mechanical digestion is breaking and physically mashing up and breaking big pieces into smaller pieces. And then there's also chemical digestion, and chemical digestion takes those smaller broken down pieces and turns them into nutrients. And there are 3 kinds of the 3 basic kinds of nutrients that food is broken down to. We have carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So there's a part of the digestive system called the digestive tract. And also called the alimentary canal. This is a series of tube-like organs, and the organs that this includes is the mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus. A lot of times people compare this to a donut. So our digestive tract is kind of like the hole in a donut. So this is the digestive tract is where food actually travels throughout the body, and it's kind of like a big hole in our body, kind of like the hole in the middle of a donut. So the food will just go through that. It never goes anywhere else, just through the digestive tract. Here's another picture of the alimentary canal, and I want you guys to notice the pancreas. So this is not part of the digestive tract. Food never travels there, but notice how it's just kind of off to the side. And so we have our, this obviously is very stretched out, not the way it looks in our body, but we can see that it's just one big long tube that food is going to travel through. So there are other parts in the digestive system that are not part of the digestive tract. This is the liver, gallbladder, pancreas, and salivary glands. So, the first part that we're going to discuss is the mouth. The mouth is used for chewing. So, chewing has 2 really important functions. One, it takes big pieces of food and breaks them down into smaller pieces of food, which are easier to swallow and easier to digest. And it also makes things kind of slippery, which means we don't choke and it's easier to swallow. There's 2 kinds of digestion that happen in the mouth. There's mechanical digestion that happens from the teeth. Remember, that is the physical breaking down of food. And there's also chemical digestion that happens in the mouth during chewing. And this is because saliva contains special chemicals called enzymes that help break down big molecules into smaller molecules. So here is just a picture of the profile of a human. There are 3 salivary glands that produce saliva and produce the enzymes that are present in saliva. We have the sublingual gland, which is under your tongue, submandibular gland, which is under your jaw, and the parotid gland, which is kind of right in front of your ear. Okay, so after the mouth, the food will then travel down the esophagus. So this is very obviously a tube. This is the tube that leads from the mouth into the stomach. And it's not just an open tube that food falls down. What the esophagus does is something called peristalsis. So it has these contractions that actually push food down the esophagus into the stomach. And this peristalsis is very strong. It's so strong that if you were upside down, you would still be able to transport food from your mouth into your stomach. After it travels down the esophagus, the food will end up in the stomach. And in the stomach, we again have 2 kinds of digestion. We have mechanical digestion because the stomach will squeeze food and break it down physically, but then we also have chemical digestion. In the stomach, there's a lot of acid and other chemicals that will help break big molecules down into smaller molecules. The stomach is very acidic, and it also kills any harmful bacteria that we may have accidentally ingested in our food. Now, it doesn't always kill all the bacteria, but it kills a lot of the bacteria that may make us sick that is in our food. So after the food in the stomach has gone through this mechanical and chemical digestion, mixing with stomach acid and other chemicals, we are left with kind of a soupy mix of liquidy, broken down food, and this is called chyme. Okay, so chyme is the soupy mixture of stomach acid and broken down food. Here we have just zoomed in on the stomach. We can see that the food traveled through the esophagus into the stomach, and after the stomach we are going to head to the small intestine. Okay, so from the stomach we're in the small intestine, and the stomach releases this chyme into the small intestine very slowly. It does this very slowly so that we're not just overwhelming the small intestine with a bunch of liquidy food particles, but also because we have a lot of acid in the stomach. One thing that is connected to the small intestine is the pancreas. Okay, so we have the stomach releasing chyme, acid, very acidic chyme into the small intestine very slowly, and the pancreas is also releasing some chemical called bicarbonate. This bicarbonate neutralizes the acid so that we no longer have an acidic liquid. The pancreas is not part of the digestive tract. Food never travels through the pancreas, but it's attached and it works with the rest of the digestive system, so it is part of the digestive system. It also happens to be part of the endocrine system, and it helps regulate blood sugar. All right, so we had very acidic chyme leaving the stomach, heading into the small intestine. The pancreas is releasing bicarbonate to help neutralize that very acidic chyme. The small intestine is not smooth inside. It is got a lot of little folded pieces of the small intestine. And the purpose of the small intestine is to take that chyme and absorb nutrients from it. So it takes out all the nutrients from that chyme and delivers it into the bloodstream. And it has a lot of what is called surface area. So instead of being smooth inside, it has lots and lots and lots of folds, and we call these foldy finger-like projections villi. And they're covered with these very important nutrient-absorbing cells that will absorb the nutrients from the chyme and pass them into the bloodstream. The small intestine is actually very, very long. Is about 2.5 centimeters in diameter, and it's 6 meters tall if it were stretched out. So I'm about 1.5 meters tall, and so if we took an average small intestine and stretched it out, it would be 4 times as tall as I am. So there's another piece of the digestive system that is not part of the digestive tract that is closely related to the small intestine. So we had the pancreas attached to the small intestine, which releases bicarbonate in there, but we also have the liver. So the liver is located kind of behind the stomach, and it attaches to the small intestine, and it releases something called bile. So bile is a chemical that is released into the small intestine, and it helps break down fat. So it takes big fat molecules and breaks them down into smaller pieces so that they're more easily absorbed by the small intestine. So not only does the liver make bile, but it also stores nutrients. So when you eat something, you're not going to use all those nutrients right away. They're released into the bloodstream, and then the liver will hold on to these extra nutrients until you need them later. The liver also breaks down toxins that are traveling within your bloodstream. You can notice that there is a little green organ called the gallbladder. The gallbladder is attached to the liver, and what it does is it stores excess bile. So it will store bile until any extra bile until it's needed by the small intestine. Okay, so we're going to go back to this picture right here, and we have chyme has left the stomach and has traveled through the small intestine. The small intestine has absorbed all of the nutrients that it can from the chyme, and we're going to head to the large intestine. So the large intestine is kind of in front of the small intestine. It kind of folds back around. It is part of the digestive tract because the food is actually traveling through it. And the job of the large intestine is to actually draw all of the water out of that soupy chyme. So it's very watery still, and the large intestine will pull all of the water out of it, and it will kind of compact it into a solid waste. And it's all this is everything left over is anything that is not digestible, that has nothing else that is usable by the body. So it stores, compacts, and then eliminates undigestible material. And when we have this solid undigestible material, that is called feces or stool. So the large intestine is 7.5 centimeters in diameter, so that's has a much larger diameter than the small intestine, but it is not quite as long. It is only about 1.5 meters long, so it is just about as tall as I am. There is a lot of bacteria in the large intestine. Does a great job of getting any extra nutrients out that the large intestine or the small intestine couldn't get out, and that the large intestine itself is not going to be able to get out. And it's actually very healthy to have a lot of bacteria in your large intestine. So the very last part of the large intestine is called the rectum. This is where any of those feces or stool are stored until it's time to eliminate them, and when it is time that they will leave out of an opening called the anus. So I hope you have enjoyed our trip through the digestive tract with a couple stops to the other organs in the digestive system. So we're going to add a little information about the bacteria in the digestive system. So bacteria have been in our digestive system through the entire history of human evolution, and in fact the community of bacteria in our system has evolved along with us. But it's only until very recently that scientists have spent a lot of time studying how important this is. So the bacteria in our digestive system exists throughout the entire thing, but it is mostly in the large intestine, and it is mostly good. Um, there are about 100 trillion bacterial cells in our large intestine alone, and all of that bacteria put together weighs 3 pounds. Considering how tiny bacterial cells are, that is quite a lot of bacteria. So, as I said, most of the bacteria in our system is good, but there is also some bad bacteria. This is a picture of E. coli that could make you very sick, that also exists in our large intestine, and it's there all the time. And only when we have some kind of imbalance, an injury, or we get sick, or we take antibiotics that messes up the balance of our bacterial community, does the bad bacteria in our system make us sick. So most of this bacteria is helpful, and the bacteria does a lot of different things. It helps prevent disease, so it will help prevent heart disease, obesity, and a lot of aging diseases. It also affects our immune system and not just our digestive health. And it also helps take the food that we eat and turn it into vitamins that our body can use and needs. As for the bacteria's role in digestion, it happens to be so important in the digestion of food that I read a few articles that said, maybe jokingly, that some scientists are thinking about calling the bacteria its own separate organ in the digestive system. So what the bacteria in the large intestine does is it takes all the digestive material that's left by the time it gets to the large intestine, and anything that's left there is really hard to digest, something that the rest of the system could not break down. And most of this is sugars, especially sugars and starches, especially from fruits and vegetables. So the bacteria will break these starches and sugars down, turn them into energy that cells in our entire body can use. There are some other byproducts of this that are not particularly useful, and these are the gases methane, hydrogen, and carbon dioxide. These byproducts are released from our body through our breath or through flatus, which is the scientific term, and what is, I would say, commonly referred to in polite company as passing gas. Here is the link to a great short video that will take you visually through the process of digestion. I would really highly recommend that you watch this. It's only about 5 minutes long, Warning, it is a little gross because it goes through the digestive system, but it is great and very helpful.